Hi, this is Brett Ingram, entrepreneur and award-winning product creator, and today I have a question. Should you use a launch event to promote your product or service? So, launch events can be really amazing. If you have any kind of a product or service, the question is, what is the best way to sell it? Traditionally, the ways that you can sell it are if you use ads. Maybe you're just going to go and advertise online or advertise in newspapers or magazines or billboards or wherever else you want to buy ads. You can certainly buy ads. You can get referrals. So, if you happen to have a base of customers and things like that, you could always go to them for referrals and try to generate sales that way. You can use social media posts. So if you don't want to spend money on stuff, but you just want to go out there and sort of organically create demand for your product or service, you can just make posts and you can do those kinds of things, and hopefully you can generate some sales that way. If you have a list, you can always do email marketing and you can make sales that way as well. But in addition to all of those things, there's another way that you can actually promote a product or service, and in certain cases it can actually be by far the best way. And it's called a launch event. So what exactly is a launch event, and how do you know whether or not you should use it? Well, a launch event, if you think about it, is basically exactly what it sounds like. You generally create a bunch of buzz about a particular product or service, and you drop hints and things like that about it. And then on a certain date, the thing drops or goes live or whatever term you want to use. So a great example of a company that does this all the time right now is Apple. Every time Apple has a new device, iPhone or whatever it is, they always do a launch event. So right now they're currently running ads for their new iPhone gazillion, the titanium one, whatever it is. And so what they show you is sort of veiled beauty shots of this angle of it and that angle of it, and then sort of a launch date of when it's coming out. And so they hint around at it, but they don't give you the full feature walkthrough. They sort of drip feed elements of the product to create buzz. And the whole idea of that is, if they do enough drip feeding like that, it starts to generate a lot of excitement. It starts to generate conversation. It generates buzz and talk. People start to ask questions. Oh, I wonder if it's going to have this. Oh my God, did you see what it looks like on that one shot? And so they do that on purpose, and they do that in a way that's very deliberate, because what it does is it builds up anticipation. If you celebrate Christmas, one of the things about Christmas that's really great for kids, and this is sort of ironic a little bit, but on Christmas, all the days leading up to it, kids are very excited. They get more and more excited as the days go by and as they get closer. Ironically, what ends up happening is on Christmas Day, after they've opened all their gifts, there tends to be a little bit of a letdown because the anticipation and the excitement is gone. But what makes the event so special is the fact that there was so much lead up to it. There was so much excitement and anticipation that they get to a point where they're all worked up about it, and that makes it really exciting. And it's the same principle with a product or a service launch. Another industry that does this all the time is the movies. When there's a new movie coming out, especially if it's a blockbuster with a big budget, they start rolling ads for it months in advance. So, they can't sell anything. You aren't even able to pre-order the tickets yet. But they know that if they start to create the buzz by showing you these little trailers about the movie, it's going to get people talking about it. It's going to build up the social media conversation. It's going to get the buzz going. It's going to get people excited. They're going to start talking to their friends. I can't wait till this thing comes out. And then they release more and more trailers as you get closer, so you get to see more and more stuff. They also start to release behind the scenes information and stuff like that. So it just generates more and more excitement. Video games now do this as well. So every time there's a new big video game launch, they do exactly the same process. They start to drip feed trailers, gameplay trailers, cinematic trailers, all these other things, and they do that in a very specific way, and they do that for the very specific reason of generating a lot of excitement and getting people talking about it long before it becomes available. That way, when they flip the switch on launch day, what happens? It explodes. Everybody goes out and buys it. There's a backlog. They can't fill the demand. That creates even more excitement. You know, when I was a kid, one of the movies that came out for the very first time back then was E.T., the Extraterrestrial. And it was an absolute classic. And at the time, they didn't run movie theaters the way they do now, where if they think it's a big release, they put it in 6 cinemas. You basically had one screen with the movie showing. And so what would happen is you couldn't pre-order tickets either. So you'd get to the theater to wait in line to buy tickets, and the line would be out the door. And then and they'd sell enough tickets, and once they sold that last ticket, they'd tell the rest of the line, oh, sorry, we're sold out. For E.T., we had to go back 2 or 3 times to be able to get in and see the movie. But each time, despite the fact we were frustrated, we were even more excited to go back the next time. So all of those things contribute to the frenzy that becomes part of a launch event, which just absolutely explodes sales when it's done right. And so launches can flat out work. But the downside is they actually take a lot of work, and the results can vary. So in my own entrepreneurial journey, one of the products that I created was a software product called My Traffic Business. And it was basically software, but it also had a coaching element to it too. And the idea was it was a software platform that people could plug in, and they would actually be able to generate traffic for themselves and for their customers. And so they were able to get free signups and build a list. They were able to monetize the list and make money from it. And it was a product that actually was, a long time in the making. And so for that particular one, what we decided to do was a product launch. And so when we got everything ready to go, we got all the sales pages ready to go and all these other things, we started to create some demo videos, started to create some, testimonial videos in terms of actual results and case studies and things like that. And we didn't leak them in the same way that it's done now. We did a pre-launch event. So the pre-launch event started a few days before the actual launch only. It wasn't like it is now where it was like months in advance or weeks in advance or whatever. And basically we put that information out, and we did a couple of training webinars and things like that to get people excited about it. And we used an affiliate launch model. So we went out to a lot of affiliates and we said, listen, we have this product that we think is going to absolutely kill it. And, we'd love you to promote it. It was, $500 a sale or whatever the case was. And so basically that's the way that we structured it. And we built up a little bit of buzz in the market, and we had everything set up in advance. So that way when it was time to flip the switch, we were ready to go. Now the key element when you're using affiliates like we were is that the affiliates need to be on board and ready to promote. Because once it goes live, you need them to drive that traffic to keep the buzz going. This is predates like a total social media buzz. You couldn't really do that then because it wasn't as big back then. And so we did it through affiliates. And basically the idea was when we flipped the switch, the first day we did 100,000 in sales. And that was an absolutely awesome and amazing day because, it was a long time coming. It was a lot of work, and we actually spent money and didn't recover a lot in the beginning. So, we were obviously thrilled that it did so well. It went on to do a few 100,000 more. And so over the course of the launch, it was really, really positive, and it had a really great positive effect. And it actually sold a tremendous amount, far more than it would have if we just put it up on a website, ran a few ads to it, and hoped that it would sell. So in that particular case, that was a success story for how to do a launch in a way where you create enough buzz, you create enough excitement where people want in on what you've got. And when they see what it can do for them, it creates excitement. And when they see other people getting in, it gets them even more excited. And so that sort of energy feeds on itself. And that's one of the key elements of a launch, is that energy, that buzz, that creates momentum, that draws in more people just from the sheer energy of it. There might be people who aren't even really interested in it initially or never heard of it. But when they see everybody else running and going to do it, they want to run and go do it too. And so that can create a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement. So You can, so the pros of a product launch, right, or a service launch, if you decide, to go with a launch, is that, it can skyrocket sales in record time. 100,000 in a day, 500,000 over the course of a month or 6 weeks or whatever is a tremendous amount to be able to do based on buzz created. I can guarantee you the Apple numbers are staggering. Some of the movies out there, some of the video games, the numbers are staggering. Now they put in a lot up front. They spent a ton of money on the movie. They spent a ton of money on the actors. They spent a ton of money on their promotion and all that other stuff. So they need to sell a lot. But if they do it right, they can make back several times what they spent and then some. And obviously they create all that positive buzz, which, just feeds on itself, leads to more streaming and downloads and, extra revenue down the line. So it can absolutely skyrocket sales in record time. And the buzz can draw in lots of extra buyers and create excitement and positive emotions about your brand, product, or service. So this is sort of a secondary benefit that you may not actually be in it for initially because you're thinking, oh, we want to go in and make money on this launch. But the fact of the matter is, we can actually create a lot more buzz and positive press for our brand by doing it. And once your brand starts to take off and your brand and your reputation improves because of it, that's when it starts to get really exciting. So you can have long-term benefits that go far beyond just the one product launch or the dollar figure in sales. And so, that's obviously another big benefit. It can also be a lot of fun. Doing product launches can be a lot of fun. You put in the work, you get excited just like the market gets excited. And when it works, it's so much fun to be involved in that and just ride that wave and watch everybody get excited and jump in on that and be part of that. So it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. It also beats grinding out sales one by one. If you're trading advertising dollars for sales and it's sort of back and forth, and then can we scale it and can we not scale it? We're making social media posts, we're making videos, we're trying anything and everything to be able to make this thing sell. The chances of being able to have a meteoric rise doing that are a lot lower because it's just harder. It's a much more linear and much more unemotional sort of sell and sales process. And it's that emotion that creates all of the excitement, the buzz, the positive press, and the additional sales. Now, those are the benefits, but there are also some detriments or some cons to being able to do product launches. One is that they are time consuming. It takes a lot of time to set up a launch. Not only because you need to start announcing it before you go live, you can't just start the buzz today and launch tomorrow. You have to start the buzz well in advance and you have to build it that way, and then you have to launch it. And so it can be time consuming from a lead time perspective, but it can also be time consuming because you have to create all of the stuff that's going to create buzz. It's only going to be as effective as the stuff is exciting to people. And so you have to create exciting marketing and promotional materials up front. You need to create, exciting demo videos and case studies. So you need to do all that work in advance, right? And then be able to go out and then use that in order to create the buzz. So it can also cost money. If we need to spend money in order to create some of the marketing material, in order to create some of the case studies, in order to get any of the swag or whatever other things that we want to offer, it can actually cost money to do it up front too. So you have your product costs and you have your marketing costs and all that other stuff, but this is in addition to that. So it can cost additional money on top of that to be able to get to where we want to be with being able to do a launch. The other thing is, it can cost that money up front to get the momentum. You also need to be able to create a buzz. So if you can't create a buzz effectively, even if you do all the steps right, if there isn't any emotional attachment to your product or service, if there isn't any excitement about it, it's going to stall. And, that's a problem because you've gone through all this effort, you've gone through all this work, but people have to have an emotional attachment to your product or your service. They have to be getting excited. You need to be able to feel that excitement through the computer screen in terms of what people are saying and what they're thinking and how excited they are, how much they can't wait for the product or service to come out. If you're able to do that, great. If you're not, it's difficult, and the launch will likely stall. The other thing is, results can ultimately be hard to predict. And by the way, this is across the board. So not every, even blue chip company, not every Apple launch has been a massive success. Not every movie launch has been a massive success. And certainly when it comes to, products and services for businesses, that's absolutely true as well. You could do all the things right. You can feel like it's going to go really well. And, it may do better than what it was going to do, but there's no guarantee that you're going to hit a home run with it, right? You might end up hitting a single or a double or something like that. And so it could be disappointing with results that are difficult to predict. It's not an exact science in that way. And ultimately what that can lead to is wasted time that you could have been using to promote other ways. So, you have to consider the opportunity cost. If we're going to put in the time and energy and effort to do a product launch, we want to make sure that it's going to be something that gives us a return on our investment and that we're excited about, what ends up happening with it. Otherwise, we could spend our time in other places doing other things and generating sales in that way, which might be a more effective use of our time. So those are all things that are really important to consider in terms of product launch. So with all of that said, how do we decide whether we use a product or service launch or whether or not we just go the more traditional route? Well, let me share a couple of requirements that I think will predispose you to success with a product launch or will help you realize that it's probably not the right thing for your product or service. The first thing is you have to have a product or service that people will rave about. It has to be something that, again, creates an emotional reaction with people where they're excited enough about it that they would want to talk about it, that they would want to share it, that they would want to tell other people about it. If people want to share their experience and people are excited, that is very, very much launch worthy because you're going to have something that's going to build a buzz, and that's going to be really awesome. Another thing is if you have a following. So if you already have a following somewhere, people that have already bought into you, whether it's a social media following, a podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever it is, right? If you have a following somewhere, then that also is going to predispose you to success because you already have people that are built in as potential customers. I think about this in relation to people writing books all the time. And when I see someone saying, I'm writing a book and they have, 1 million followers or they have 1 million this, I can already tell you that the book is going to sell because the people that are going to buy it are their own list. It's their own followers. Now they'll sell additional, but they already have a built-in marketing funnel. So they're predisposed to success. So it's the same idea. If you have the funnel built and you have a following built, then you're going to be in good shape in terms of being able to launch that. If you have an email list, so it's not exactly the same as a following, they might not be as rabidly engaged with you, but the fact is, if you have an email list of prospects and customers, they know who you are, they trust you, they want to hear from you. So that's going to help a lot in terms of being able to generate that buzz and get people excited. Another way to do it, which is the way that we did it ultimately, is affiliates. So if you have an affiliate network or you're tapped into an affiliate network where you can get other people to go out and promote the product or service for you, then that's a great way to build buzz because they can actually build the buzz for you. You started off, you get the ball rolling, you light the spark, and then they run with it. They get other people excited about it. They do the promotion and they make the lion's share of the sales for you. And so they get paid when they make sales, you get paid because you're making sales. And so it works all the way around. Or another way you could do it is if you have a budget. So if you have a budget that you can use for ads and marketing, then you're able to actually sort of push your way into that strategy. If you're starting from scratch and you have no other assets, but you have a budget, then you could actually buy ads to create the buzz, sort of like a movie does, right? They start running ads and then people see the ads and they get excited, and that's when they turn to social media and all that kind of stuff. You could do it the same essential way. And then you also as a requirement, we have to have lead time to be able to make it happen. If it's something that we need to launch in the next, 6 days, we aren't going to have time to be able to create that launch. We aren't going to have time to be able to create that buzz. It needs a little bit of time to sort of grow and germinate a little bit. And then the last thing, and this is a problem that you hope you have, we all hope we have, is that we have the capacity to handle the flood of sales. If you do everything right and you've got a big buzz and then you flip the switch, you may get overwhelmed with sales. So if you have a very, weak infrastructure and you don't have a way to scale it really quickly, that can actually be a problem, because you can turn people from excited into annoyed and frustrated if they can't get their products delivered or your systems break down. So it's important that at least you vet enough, that you've got enough capacity to be able to handle a big spike in sales. And then obviously we hope that that happens, but that's essentially what we need to be able to do. So the takeaway here is that using a launch event to promote our product or service can be an absolute home run. But it takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort before we see any results. So think about the product, think about the customer, the market, and all the other requirements. And if it all fits, go for it. Launch events can be a real turning point in your business success. And remember, until next time, as always, no matter what you want out of your business and your life, don't compromise. optYOUmize.